New Orleans. By the time the New Orleans Police Department fired Kerry Dykes, the officer had been sued for alleged brutality, accused of having sex with a prostitute while on duty, and caught sleeping in his patrol car instead of responding to a shooting. The 13-year veteran fought to get his job back but lost. Even so, he returned to patrol months later working for a nearby police department. Dykes is one of dozens of officers forced out of the New Orleans Department over the past decade for misconduct who were given badges and guns by other departments, according to a Washington Post analysis of state and city employment records, police personnel files and court documents. At a time of increased scrutiny of police nationwide, the ease with which fired or forced out New Orleans officers found work at new departments underscores the broader challenge that law enforcement faces to rid itself of bad apples. The New Orleans Department has long been attempting to reform its ranks and shed a troubled past. In the past decade, the department has fired or otherwise pushed out at least 248 officers. Of those forced out, 53 have been hired by other police departments. Many of those officers landed at smaller police departments in nearby parishes and colleges, some hired weeks or months after leaving New Orleans. While records show that some have had no complaints of misconduct since joining new departments, others have been fired again. Records show that many of the 53 officers hired by other departments disclosed their troubled departures from New Orleans. About half of the 53 had been fired, and the rest resigned in lieu of being fired or quit while under investigation. Police chiefs are often forced to put hundreds of officers fired for misconduct back on the streets. Philadelphia police were forced to rehire Officer Cyrus Mann, who fatally shot an unarmed man in the back. How one attorney forces police chiefs to rehire the officers they fire. A text: a death and a cop left unwanted by a city that once praised him. Some of the 248 officers were fired or forced out in New Orleans after abandoning their posts in 2005 when Hurricane Katrina struck the city. Others were fired or pushed out in the aftermath of a 2011 Department of Justice civil rights investigation. The Federal Review concluded that officers routinely used unnecessary force and conducted unlawful arrests, and that neither the public nor officers had faith in the department's disciplinary process. City leaders instituted reforms demanded by justice, adding to an exodus of officers. Former New Orleans Police Superintendent Ronald Serpis said that sheriffs and other chiefs often justify rehiring officers by dismissing their problems as political. As a result, troubled officers remain in policing, he said. By the time you reach the point of terminating someone, that's usually something that speaks to the officer's ethics or ability to perform their job, said Serpis, who led the New Orleans Department from 2010 to 2014. Louisiana is one of 44 states that require that officers be certified or licensed.